Picture this.
Whoa, look at that behind you. In the doorway.
It's a dark, foggy night somewhere in rural West Virginia. Two grown adults are creeping through an abandoned asylum, armed with night vision cameras, EMF readers, and the kind of dramatic music that makes a grocery store feel haunted. One of them gasps. The other grabs their arm. The camera shakes. Something moved in the shadows. Was it a ghost? A demon? Proof that the paranormal is real? Nope, it was probably a raccoon.
Reportedly perpetrated by a large, hairy, man-like creature.
But hey, roll the suspenseful sting, cut to commercial, and let's call it science. Welcome to Expedition X, Discovery Channel's attempt to bottle the magic of Expedition Unknown and pour it into a paranormal blender. On paper, it sounded brilliant. Take Josh Gates, one of cable TV's most beloved adventure hosts, slap his name on a spinoff, and let two investigators roam the world chasing cryptids, UFOs, and things that go bump in the night. Smart, cinematic, thrilling, the kind of content that keeps you up until 2 a.m.
Something just scratched the out of my neck.
Convinced that Bigfoot is real and that you personally need to move away from any forest immediately. And for a while, it worked. People tuned in. The format felt fresh. The chemistry between a skeptical scientist and a true believer created genuine tension. Discovery had a hit, or so it seemed, because underneath all that night vision drama and creaky floorboard energy, Expedition X was quietly building the foundation for one of cable TV's most predictable collapses. And the scariest part, the real horror wasn't in any of those abandoned buildings.
Tribes in Alaska have Sasquatch-like legends that there's gotta be something to this.
It was in the boardroom. To understand how Expedition X fell off, you have to understand why it existed in the first place. The show launched on Discovery Channel in February 2020 as a direct spin-off of Expedition Unknown, the franchise that had turned Josh Gates into a genuine TV star over the course of 15+ seasons.
And dark folklore. Most notably, of course, the legend of Count Dracula.
Gates had a rare gift. He made archaeology feel like an action movie. Charming, self-deprecating, and sharp enough to make you actually care about ancient civilizations you'd never heard of. He could stand in the middle of a Honduran jungle, covered in mud, cracking jokes, and somehow make you feel like you were right there with him. Fans loved him. Discovery loved the ratings. So they did what every network does when something works. They franchised it into the ground.
To a foot per hour, burying the tracks under 20-foot-high drifts.
Expedition X was the paranormal cousin. Where Expedition Unknown chased lost treasure and historical mysteries, Expedition X chased ghosts, monsters, and alien encounters. The timing felt perfect. True crime and paranormal content were exploding across every platform. Ghost Adventures was pulling millions of viewers on Travel Channel. The Haunting of Hill House had just broken Netflix. Paranormal TikTok was becoming its own ecosystem.
Singing, and an eerie, unsettling feeling that overtakes them.
The appetite for spooky, unexplained content had never been bigger, and Discovery wanted a piece of that audience before someone else grabbed it. So they built a cast that looked great on paper. Phil Torres, a real biologist, National Geographic contributor, and genuinely brilliant science communicator, would play the rational skeptic.
Two crews managed to pull 23 people to safety, but the rest are dead.
Jessica Chobot, a media personality from IGN and Nerdist with a decade of experience and a genuine passion for the weird and unexplained, would play the true believer. Josh Gates would oversee everything as executive producer, lending his credibility to the whole operation like a famous chef putting his name above the door of a restaurant he never actually cooks in. The formula was classic. A scientist and a true believer walk into a haunted house. It's basically a paranormal buddy cop movie, except instead of solving murders, they're asking empty rooms if anyone's home.
I'm just gonna try a little call and response too, to see if we can't get anything.
And in those early seasons, there was something genuinely entertaining about it. Real locations, interesting cases, a dynamic between Phil and Jessica that had actual friction. The eye-rolling biologist versus the enthusiastic believer who sees a supernatural explanation before the rational one has even been considered. Discovery had their formula. Now all they had to do was not blow it.
Explosions below the ground, despite the fact the basin is not on any active fault line.
You already know where this is going. Paranormal reality TV lives and dies by one question. Do you believe what you're watching? The second the audience stops buying in, the whole house of cards collapses.
Legend has it that's because the entire forest is cursed.
For Expedition X, that moment came earlier than anyone at Discovery probably wanted to admit. The cracks showed up in season 1. Critics immediately clocked that the show leaned on every paranormal TV cliche imaginable. The shaky cam, the sudden loud noise with a dramatic sting, the whispered, "Did you hear that?" followed by 12 seconds of ominous strings and 2 people standing completely still. One early reviewer called it Ghost Adventures, but done 10 times worse and considerably more fake. And the core complaint wasn't that the supernatural stuff was unproven. That's expected, it's a ghost show. The complaint was that the investigations produced absolutely nothing.
Beckoned rugged explorers into its vast, punishing, and mostly unexplored wilderness.
Episode after episode, the team would travel to some remote, allegedly haunted location, wave their equipment around, hear a creak, look at each other meaningfully, and roll credits with 0 conclusions and 0 answers. Every single time. And then there was the show's original sin, the thing nobody at Discovery wanted to say out loud.
If you weren't welcome in society, this is where they put you.
Nothing ever happens. Not once. Not even close. The team investigates. The music swells. Someone whispers. The EMF reader beeps. And then, nothing. No evidence, no conclusions, just a vague recap about how the mystery lives on.
Passengers are running low on food and coal to heat the train cars.
And a teaser for next week's episode where, spoiler alert, nothing will happen there either. Reddit called it out within the first season. Fan forums on the Expedition Unknown subreddit started filling up with posts asking why Expedition X couldn't deliver what even basic cable ghost shows managed to pull off. One comment that gained nearly 50 upvotes put it perfectly. Viewers didn't need definitive proof of the paranormal. They just needed the show to stop feeling like it was wasting their time. The show had mastered the art of manufacturing tension without ever delivering the release. The TV equivalent of someone leaning in and whispering, "I'm about to tell you the craziest thing," and then just never finishing the sentence. Meanwhile, something genuinely serious was unfolding in the background. In May 2021, Josh Gates personally visited OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush to explore filming a Titanic dive for Expedition Unknown. During the visit, Gates grew increasingly alarmed. The Titan submersible was neither certified nor properly tested at depth, and Rush seemed disturbingly casual about the safety concerns Gates raised. Gates walked away and asked the network to kill the planned episode entirely, feeling it would be unethical to promote OceanGate to viewers as a legitimate operation. 2 years later, the Titan imploded on a dive to the Titanic, killing Rush and 4 others. Gates had been right, and the footage from his visit later aired in an HBO documentary about the disaster. It was a genuinely sobering story, and it revealed something important. The man behind the Expedition franchise had real integrity, real instincts, and the courage to act on them, which made it all the more frustrating that the franchise itself was still churning out episodes built on fake tension and manufactured scares. The answer, as always, was ratings pressure. And as Expedition X stumbled through its middle seasons, Discovery's instinct wasn't to fix the formula, it was to detonate the cast. After 7 seasons, Jessica Chobot was out. No announcement, no farewell episode, no statement from the network. Season 8 simply premiered in August 2024.
Death?
Death. I heard
Sounded
death.
like death.
With a new co-host, internet personality, and self-described third-generation paranormal investigator Heather Amaro. Standing in Jessica's spot as if a paranormal witness protection program had quietly relocated her overnight. Longtime fans were blindsided. Phil Torres gave Jessica a gracious public shout-out, saying she was one of his closest friends and that he hoped they'd find a way to work together again. Josh Gates promoted Season 8 extensively. He said nothing about Jessica at all. The response to Heather's arrival was rough. Viewers complained about the absence of chemistry between her and Phil, about reactions that felt performed rather than genuine, and about a screaming at every noise energy that felt hard to square with someone claiming 20 years of professional paranormal investigation experience. One IMDb reviewer noted that a real experienced investigator doesn't shriek every 5 seconds, and that Heather's obvious terror at every shadow made the whole operation feel less like a serious investigation and more like a first-time haunted house visitor who somehow ended up with a camera crew. The most damaging accusation, raised by multiple viewers,
That was definitely it.
was that she appeared to physically manipulate dowsing rods and an Ouija-style necklace to generate activity on camera. on a show already hemorrhaging credibility. That kind of allegation doesn't just hurt, it lingers. Backstage rumors made everything messier. Jessica's goodbye Instagram post tagged Heather, tagged Phil, tagged the crew, but conspicuously left out Josh Gates. She later unfollowed him. He still follows her. Neither has ever addressed what actually happened. Discovery has never commented. The biggest mystery Expedition X ever produced wasn't on any of their filming locations. It was the one playing out in real time on social media, and it had no resolution, no evidence, and no satisfying conclusion, which, come to think of it, is pretty on brand. Here's what nobody wants to say about Expedition X in its current state. It's not just a bad paranormal show. It's a show that has completely lost track of what it was supposed to be.
Thank you. Were you a soldier that fought in a battle here?
The original pitch was credibility meets entertainment, a real scientist, real locations, real intellectual tension between belief and skepticism. What you get now is a genre checklist. Spooky location? Check. Night vision? Check. Dramatic sting every 45 seconds? Check. Someone screaming at a door hinge and calling it evidence? Check. Any kind of payoff whatsoever? Eternal, unflinching, almost impressive? No. The structural problem goes deeper than casting drama. Expedition X made the same fatal mistake that kills every paranormal show eventually. It kept promising answers it could never deliver, and it never developed enough personality to make the absence of answers forgivable. Ghost Adventures solved this by leaning fully into Zach Bagans' unhinged energy until the show became its own self-aware meme.
4.
That lines up with technology not really working in the towers.
Ancient Aliens solved it by going so deep into conspiracy territory that the lack of evidence became the entire point. Expedition X never found its lane. It wanted the credibility of a scientific investigation show while simultaneously adding fake screams to its audio. Yes, multiple viewers caught this, and yes, it is exactly as damaging as it sounds. You cannot claim rigorous investigation while your production team is dropping manufactured scream sound effects into the edit. At that point, you're not making a mystery show. You're making a haunted house attraction that forgot to build the haunted house.
Change in air pressure? There could be a gust big enough to move this door.
And the kicker, the detail that makes the whole thing sting, is that the paranormal genre itself never went away. If anything, it got bigger. True crime exploded. Paranormal YouTube channels are pulling millions of subscribers with a camera, a flashlight, and a personality. Teenage ghost hunters on TikTok are generating more genuine tension and audience investment than a fully funded Discovery Channel production. Expedition X isn't losing because the audience stopped caring about the paranormal. It's losing because it stopped giving the audience a reason to care about Expedition X. The genre moved forward. The show stood in a dark hallway and waited for something to happen. Look, Expedition X wasn't always a disaster. In its best moments, it captured something genuinely compelling, the collision between what we can prove and what we desperately want to be true. Phil and Jessica at their best represented two ways of seeing a mysterious world, and there's real drama in that tension when the show trusted it. The locations were often spectacular. The subjects, Mothman sightings in Point Pleasant, the UFO-dense skies above the Uinta Basin, asylums with genuinely dark histories were legitimately fascinating. If the show had leaned harder into that intellectual friction and less into cheap theatrics and manufactured scares, it might have become something worth remembering for the right reasons.
That looks like...
A shadow person.
It looks like the shadow of a person.
But it didn't. And that's the real tragedy. Not that Expedition X failed, but that it was so close to not failing. It had the brand recognition, the budget, the talent, and the cultural timing. It just didn't have the courage to be strange enough, honest enough, or bold enough to become genuinely great. Instead, it played it safe, recycled its format season after season, burned through its best cast member without explanation, and slowly became the very thing paranormal fans were already tired of, a show that mistakes atmosphere for content and spooky music for storytelling.
Captured on camera what appears to be an apparition.
So what does Expedition X actually tell us in the end? Maybe just this. We live in a world that's increasingly mapped, increasingly explained, increasingly lit up, and we are all still desperately looking for a dark corner that science hasn't touched yet. We want to believe something is out there. We just need someone to make us believe it. Expedition X had every single tool to do exactly that. The talent, the platform, the stories, and still came home empty-handed every time. just like every episode it ever made. And if that's not a ghost story, I don't know what is. Hit that like button, subscribe to BuzzKill TV, and tell us in the comments which reality show deserves to be exposed next.